Sarah sat in the driver's seat of her sleek black sedan, tapping her fingers impatiently against the steering wheel. The engine had coughed, sputtered, and died right in the middle of the road. She sighed, her frustration mixing with the humid air pressing in through the open window. Her husband, Mark, was in another meeting, as usual unreachable, unavailable, distant. Just like he had been for years. The tow truck arrived within the hour, delivering her car to a small repair shop on the outskirts of town. It wasn't the type of place she usually visited, grease-streaked floors, the scent of motor oil thick in the air, but something about it felt grounding, real. She stepped out of the car, smoothing the fabric of her expensive dress, feeling out of place. "Need some help?" A voice called from beneath a lifted hood. A young man, probably in his mid-20s, emerged, wiping his hands on a rag. He had an easy confidence about him, the kind that came with working with your hands, knowing how things functioned. His dark hair was tousled, his tanned skin marked with smudges of oil. Sarah hesitated before nodding. "My car died on me. Again." He gave her a quick grin. "Let's take a look." As Liam leaned under the hood, Sarah found herself studying him, the effortless way he moved, the quiet self-assurance that reminded her of something she had lost in herself. He wasn't rushing, wasn't preoccupied. He was present. "You seem like you've been here before," he said, glancing at her. She shrugged. "More times than I care to admit." "Well, lucky for you, this isn't anything serious. Just a minor wiring issue." She let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. "That's a relief." Liam chuckled. "You don't seem the type to worry about car troubles." Sarah smiled, a little sadder this time. "You'd be surprised." He nodded as if he understood more than she was saying. "Give me a little time, and I'll have you back on the road." Sarah settled onto a bench outside the shop, watching him work. There was something oddly soothing about it. The precision, the care, it was more attention than she had felt in a long time. Her phone buzzed. A message from Mark, stuck in meetings. Home late. No apology, no warmth. Just another reminder of the life she had built, a life that no longer felt like hers. "Everything okay?" Liam's voice pulled her from her thoughts. She slipped her phone back into her bag. "Just work stuff." He nodded but didn't press. Instead, he turned back to her car, focused, undistracted. It was a rare thing, she realized, being given someone's full attention. The engine roared back to life minutes later. Liam wiped his hands on his rag and leaned against the door. "Good as new." Sarah pulled out her wallet, but he waved her off. "Come back when you actually need a repair." For the first time in a while, she laughed. "I just might." As she drove away, she caught his reflection in the rearview mirror. Something about the moment lingered, a quiet spark, an unfamiliar feeling of being seen. Sarah found herself driving past the repair shop more often than necessary. The excuse was routine maintenance, but she knew better. It wasn't the car that needed attention, it was something deeper, something she wasn't ready to admit. Liam greeted her with that same easy smile. "Back so soon?" She shrugged. "Figured I'd get ahead of any future breakdowns." He didn't question it, just rolled up his sleeves and got to work. She leaned against the counter, watching him move. There was a simplicity to him, a confidence that wasn't wrapped in arrogance. Unlike the world she came from, everything here felt honest, unfiltered. "You always this prepared?" he asked, glancing at her. "Not usually." "So why now?" She hesitated. "Maybe I just like knowing things are being taken care of." Liam wiped his hands and leaned on the counter beside her. "And do you feel taken care of?" The question lingered between them, heavier than it should have been. She looked away. "I should probably go." He didn't stop her, just nodded. "See you around, Sarah." The way he said her name sent a shiver down her spine. She wasn't sure if she wanted to hear it again or never hear it at all. That night, as Mark sat across from her at the dinner table, scrolling through emails, Sarah thought about Liam's question. She studied the man she had built a life with, his neatly pressed suit, his distracted nods, the way his mind was always somewhere else. She used to think it was just the way things were, but now she wasn't so sure. Days passed, and she returned to the garage once more. This time, there was no pretense. She sat on the edge of a workbench, sipping a coffee Liam had handed her. They talked about nothing, about everything. He told her about growing up in a small town, about fixing things with his father. She told him about art school, about how she once wanted to paint but never had the time. You still could, he said simply. She laughed, shaking her head. That's not my life anymore. Why not? She had no answer. The afternoon stretched on, time moving differently here. No pressure, no expectations, just a space where she felt understood. When she finally glanced at her phone, there were no missed calls, no messages. Mark hadn't even noticed she was gone. As she stood to leave, Liam reached out, brushing a smudge of grease from her wrist. It was an innocent gesture, but the warmth of his touch sent her pulse racing. Their eyes met just for a second, but long enough for something unspoken to pass between them. She pulled her hand away. I should go. Liam nodded, but this time, there was something different in his expression. Take care, Sarah. She drove home gripping the wheel tighter than necessary, her mind a tangled mess of thoughts she wasn't ready to unravel. The rain drummed against the cafe window, a rhythmic tapping that matched the unsettled beat of Sarah's heart. She shouldn't have been here. She shouldn't have called him. Yet here she was, sitting across from Liam in the dim glow of the hanging bulbs, the scent of freshly brewed coffee curling around them like an embrace. She wrapped her hands around her cup, seeking warmth, seeking distraction. Liam's gaze lingered on her, steady, waiting. You okay? He finally asked. She exhaled slowly. I don't know. It wasn't a lie. It wasn't the whole truth, either. Outside, headlights cut through the rain, blurring against the glass. The world beyond the cafe felt distant, unreal. Inside, it was just them, suspended in a moment neither of them fully understood. You ever feel like you don't recognize your own life? She asked, staring into the swirl of cream in her coffee. Liam studied her, as if weighing his words. Yeah, he said eventually. But I think we always have a choice. A humorless chuckle escaped her lips. Do we? His expression didn't change. You do. She met his eyes then, searching for something, clarity, maybe, or reassurance. Instead, she found something else entirely. Understanding. And beneath that, something dangerous. I don't know what I'm doing, she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. Liam leaned back slightly, fingers tapping against his cup. Neither do I. The air between them tightened. She could feel it, an invisible pull, something unspoken stretching taut between them. It wasn't just the words. It was the way he looked at her, the way she felt when he did. Like she wasn't just another person passing through his day. Like she mattered. She reached across the table before she could stop herself. Just a small movement. A test. Liam's fingers brushed hers. Warm. Steady. A touch that sent a quiet tremor through her chest. It would be so easy to let this happen. Her phone buzzed in her bag, shattering the silence. She jerked her hand back as if burned, pulse hammering. The moment snapped like a stretched thread, reality flooding in too fast. She pulled out the phone, already knowing who it was. Mark. A simple text. Home late again. No questions. No concern. Just another footnote in the life she wasn't sure was hers anymore. Liam didn't ask what the message was. He didn't need to. She shoved the phone back into her bag, swallowing down the guilt rising in her throat. I should go, she said, voice uneven. Liam nodded, but something in his eyes told her this wasn't over. Take care, Sarah. She left before she could change her mind, stepping out into the rain, letting it soak through her clothes, letting it wash away the heat of his touch. But the feeling lingered, like an ember refusing to die. Sarah sat in her car outside her house, the rain still tapping against the windshield. She should go inside. She should slip back into the life waiting for her, pretend nothing had changed. But something had. She gripped the steering wheel, inhaling deeply. The air felt heavy, pressing down on her chest. Her phone sat on the passenger seat, Mark's message still glowing on the screen. She turned it over, as if that would make it disappear. Inside, the house was dark except for the soft glow from Mark's office. He was home, earlier than expected. She stepped inside, her wet shoes squeaking against the polished floor. He didn't look up when she walked in. "You're home early," she said, more to break the silence than anything else. Mark glanced at her briefly, then back at his laptop. Meeting got cancelled. No follow-up. No questions. Just a statement, as if that was all there was to say. She set her bag down, watching him. She used to be able to read him, used to know the small shifts in his expression, the weight behind his words. Now, he felt like a stranger sitting in their shared life. "I had coffee with someone today," she said, testing the waters. Mark hummed in acknowledgement, still typing. "That's nice." Her stomach twisted. He wasn't even listening. He hadn't been listening for years. She stepped closer. "Did you hear me?" Mark sighed, rubbing his temple. "Sarah, I've had a long day. Can we not do this right now? This." As if her voice, her presence, was an inconvenience. Something inside her snapped. Not in anger, not in grief, just a quiet, undeniable realization. She had been holding on to something that no longer existed. She nodded, more to herself than to him. "Okay." Mark barely reacted, already lost in his screen. Upstairs, she peeled off her damp clothes, slipping into something comfortable. She caught her reflection in the mirror, the same face, the same eyes, but something was different. She didn't feel like a woman disappearing anymore. She felt like someone waking up. Her phone buzzed. A single message. "Did you get home safe?" She didn't need to see the name to know who it was. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard. There were 1,000 things she could say, 1,000 directions this could go. She closed her eyes, exhaling slowly. Then, finally, she typed. "Yes. Thank you." She stared at the screen for a moment before setting the phone down. She didn't delete the message. She didn't ignore it. But she didn't continue the conversation either. For now, that was enough.